The elders say this is a bad omen. Standing in front of my family's shop, Tong's Grocery, I hold a yellowed suit. The warning reads, never leave the shop. At 24, while peers went to big cities, I stayed to guard Tong's Grocery. Outside the shop lies a highway to the county. Usually busy, it's eerily quiet these past few days. The orange heavy rain warning has been pinned for 3 days. Authorities urge evacuation to higher ground. Neighbor Mrs. Chen walks in with an empty soy sauce bottle, glancing at the darkening sky. Xiao Xiao, close up and leave. This road will flood if it rains. I hand her the filled soy sauce bottle. Auntie, I need to watch the shop. Mrs. Chen sighs and says the shop's foundation was an old earth god temple. It's said to be powerful, but it traps people. I took it as a joke and returned to organizing instant noodles on the shelves. By 8 p.m., the air was oppressive, hard to breathe. The last freight truck stopped outside, and driver Li Jianguo wiped his sweat as he walked in. Boss, give me a pack of cigarettes. A bolt of lightning suddenly split the night sky. Even the shelves were trembling. The rain fell suddenly. It wasn't regular rain, it was like the sky had a hole ripped open, pouring water in sheets. Li Jianguo reached the doorway, then backed up, pale-faced. I looked outside and saw a scene I'll never forget. A meter from the door, water rose past the ankles. Minutes later, the highway turned into a raging yellow river. Something strange happened. The doorway, an old wooden threshold polished over time, felt like an invisible barrier. Outside, rain poured, splashes flying everywhere. Yet, crossing the groove under the door, the inside stayed perfectly dry. Li Jianguo noticed it too. He reached out cautiously towards the rain. The raindrops hit his palm with a tap. When he pulled his hand back, there was no dampness on his arm, as if the rain avoided the doorway. His voice trembled. My heart pounded as final words echoed in my mind. I hesitated, then stepped over the threshold. The tip of my shoe touched the line, and dread washed over me. Instinct warned if I stepped further, I'd be devoured by this world's darkness. My foot shot back like I'd been electrocuted. The water kept rising. Heavy objects rumbled as they were swept away. A sedan in the surge slammed into a road sign. The car headlights flickered underwater before going out. Inside the shop, the dim bulb swayed. The old-fashioned abacus on the counter clicked, as though a bead moved. I glanced at Tong's shop clock as the heavy rain began, incense lingering in the air. Outside, the muddy torrent formed a world starkly different from the shop. Inside felt like a sanctuary amidst this. The eerie calm lasted half an hour. The highway failed to block the flood. Gradually, people stranded started wading through waist-deep muddy water. Help! Open the door! The cries were heart-wrenching. I pulled open the wooden door. Damp, cold air rushed in but couldn't penetrate the shop. 3 or 4 men dragged a woman clutching her child to the entrance. The woman, Zhou Qian, was drenched, and the child in her arms was pale and too frozen to make a sound. The instant they stepped into the shop, I heard a sizzle, like water hitting hot oil. Their soaked clothes dried within seconds. The baby in Zhou Qian's arms wailed loudly, the little face turning pink. Is there heating in here? A man asked, startled, touching his dried shirt. Li Jianguo sat on the bench behind the counter, eyes uneasy. It's not heating. Something's off about this place. Soon, over 10, everyone stood, shaken, staring outside. Through the window, the highway had vanished, leaving murky floodwater churning under faint streetlight. Occasionally, debris would hit the shop's walls with a dull thud, but the house stood solid. Granny Chen had shown up at some point, huddled in the corner gripping a bottle of soy sauce tightly. She mumbled, the earth god shows his power. Lord Wang protects us. I looked at the goods on the shelves. Strength surged in me. This was the Tong family store. On the first night of the apocalypse, humanity crumbled faster than floodwaters. At night, an engine roar broke silence. An armored truck burst through torrents. It stopped outside the store. Wang Dahu entered with 2 lackeys carrying steel pipes. Known as the town thug, his eyes gleamed with menace. He scanned the place, his gaze landing on the fully stocked shelves, then swaggered to the counter. He tore open a pack of jerky, stuffing it into his mouth. Chaos out there, but here it's cozy. Authorities can't handle their crap. This place is under my watch. Li Jianguo stood, voice firm. Wang Dahu, we're seeking refuge. Don't complicate things. Wang Dahu sneered. He slammed his pipe on the counter, making the calculator beep. I'm protecting you. Goods will be rationed per head. What I say goes. Anyone who disagrees can take a cold bath outside. Some villagers shrank back, unwilling to argue. David grew brazen and reached for the cash drawer. I stopped him, my voice firm. That's mine. Put it down. David Wang swung at me. I closed my eyes, but the expected pain never came. I heard a thud, followed by a scream. David clutched his forehead, staggering as blood trickled through his fingers. The old broom leaning against the wall moments ago jumped into midair, like an invisible hand waved it. It struck David Wang's face with pinpoint accuracy, each swing slicing through the air with a sharp, whooshing sound. Tiger Wang's lackeys rushed to help but tripped on a rag and fell on the concrete, knocking out 2 teeth. The broom struck swiftly, landing blows on Tony Wong. He couldn't fight back. The metal rod slipped and hit the ground. He got beaten badly, left scrambling on the floor, then swept out of the shop with a broom. "Get out!" I shouted. The broom sprang into action, flung David and his companions into the floodwaters. The three struggled desperately in the water. Finally, they climbed onto the pickup truck roof, scared to come closer. Inside, an eerie silence fell. Everyone watched as the broom floated back behind the door and gently leaned against it. Just then, the old-fashioned calculator on the counter suddenly lit up with a strange message. I glanced down, and instead of a total amount, it displayed, "Well done." Soon after, the calculator displayed a line, "Malicious harassment detected. Fine, survival points plus 10, deducted." I stared at the screen, sweat forming in my palms. What my parents left me was more than a small convenience store. The rain poured harder. This apocalyptic clash of water and fire had just begun. A bottle of water could trade for a gold bar. Here, it was two. A few men inside stared at the shelves, eyes gleaming like wolves. One man pulled a wad of soaked cash from his pocket. He slapped it on the counter. $1,000, 10 boxes of noodles, the rest in sausages. I didn't take the money, scanned the item calmly. Beep, an electronic voice announced, "Kingshifu instant noodles, $2.50. $2.50? The man was dumbfounded, then burst out laughing. "Girl, did the rain fry your brains? You're still selling for $2.50? Suicidal or stupid?" The others laughed cruelly, their eyes greedy and disdainful. To them, I was an easy target for refusing to raise prices. I slid 3 loaves of bread and a bottle of water across the counter. $9.50 total. 50 cents back. Li Jianguo stood watching, hesitant to speak. He thought I was out of. I knew when Wang Dahu was dragged away, the calculator flickered survival points. The shop's rules weren't set by me, but by the land. As long as I sold items at original prices, the warmth behind the cash register would protect me. The man who mocked me snatched the bread, cursed, and reached for the cigarettes. Touching the cigarette box felt like a high-voltage shock, throwing him backward into the doorframe. He clutched his hand, screaming, as I saw words on the calculator, "No items beyond the transaction amount allowed." In the suffocating stillness of the rainy night, old lady Chen's coughing sounded particularly harsh, her breath like the wheezing of bellows. Zhou Qian rushed over with her child, touched the old lady's forehead, and gasped, "She's burning up. She has a fever." I took cough syrup and 2 white rabbit candies from the cabinet. On this highway, that bottle's value could equal a car. She drank the syrup, and I stuffed the candies into her hand. The old lady caught her breath, her clouded eyes brimming with tears. She pointed to a golden glow seeping through the floor crack and whispered, "This house is built on earth energy. The earth god's clay statue is buried under the counter." Hold your breath. The Tong family shop jolted my heart. No wonder my parents warned me, never leave the shop, no matter what. Zhou Qian divided cookies from the child's arms, giving half to the old lady. On this flood-surrounded island, warmth was a luxury. Lights flashed outside the window. 3 armored pickups with bumpers tore through water, engines roaring like wild beasts. Wang Dahu is back, bringing a dozen men armed with axes and spears. Wang Dahu stood atop a pickup, blood-soaked gauze on his head making him terrifying. "Tong Qiao, open the door, move everything out, and I'll let you live." He wielded a loudspeaker. "If you don't, I'll use these trucks to smash your shop to bits." Inside, chaos erupted. Li Jianguo grabbed a crowbar, guarding the door, face grim. "Too many of them. This door won't hold." I walked to the door, resting my hand on the frame. That familiar sense of crisis surged up again, but this time, it wasn't a needlepoint fear. "Ram it!" Wang Dahu yelled, waving his hand. The first pickup roared to life, spewing exhaust and charging at the shop door with ruthless ferocity. Its heavy bumper gleamed in the rain, slicing through water. As the truck neared the shop threshold, the ground suddenly collapsed. The highway turned into a bottomless mud pit. With a muffled thud, the pickup truck's front dove into the ground. Rear wheels spun in midair, spraying mud and water. The men in the pickup, bloodied, stumbled out of the doors. Why is the ground so soft? A man with an axe landed but struggled to steady himself as the cargo rack behind me shook violently. The neatly stacked cans of luncheon meat, stainless steel basins, and even heavy bags of salt all seemed to come alive in an instant. A single can of luncheon meat suddenly shot off the shelf, tracing a blazing red arc through the air, and nailed the axe-wielding man squarely on the forehead with a dull thud. The man collapsed into the muddy puddle, blood mixing with rainwater. Dozens of bottled waters shot out like bullets. Wang Dahu was about to jump off the truck when 3 bottles struck his chest, sending him into the pickup bed with a crack as his bones were dislocated. Heavy cargo moved like birds in flight. A metal basin spun through the air like a deadly frisbee and sliced into a thug's leg like a blade. The man howled in pain, collapsing as his pants stained with blood. Li Jianguo and Zhou Qian froze, their sticks falling to the ground. Within 3 minutes, the once intimidating group lay scattered in disarray. Wang Dahu was hit by a 5-kilogram bag of rice, curling up on the car roof like a shrimp. The rain let up, and grim moonlight broke through the clouds. Grandma Chen leaned against the wall, struggled to stand, walked to the doorway, looked at the shop's sign, clasped her hands, and whispered a prayer. "Chow chow, look," she murmured. Following her gaze, the wooden sign, blackened by smoke and grime, read Tong Family Convenience Store. Under the moonlight, it shimmered with a golden glow. The glow wasn't a reflection, it emerged from the wood, spreading along the doorframe and forming a golden aura on the ground in front of the door. Wang Dahu, in pain, tried to grab the fallen loudspeaker, but as his hand touched the golden aura, it was like he touched a red-hot branding iron. Smoke sizzled off his hand, which was already swollen and red. He spat, trembling. Grandma Chen shook her head. "This is the rule. Follow rules to maintain peace and order, break them, and you're nothing but weeds." I glanced at the toothless thug sprawled at the entrance, groaning, Without this shop, many here tonight might have faced far worse fates." Suddenly, my phone vibrated in my pocket. I pulled it out and saw my phone, black from losing signal, displaying a strange interface. Shopkeeper level 1, newbie, operating range, 100 meters radius. Warning, scorching sun arrives in 15 days. Stock up on cooling supplies. The flood outside remains murky, but the store carries a hint of life. Zhou Qian mopped the aisle holding a child, making the corners shine. The little girl, Yo-Yo, sat obediently on a tiny stool, holding an empty bread bag. "Chow chow, I learned first aid. If wounds get infected, I can handle it. I can clean and organize goods. If I can feed Yo-Yo, I'll do anything." Her rain-soaked pale fingers caught my eye, and I nodded. People like her are better than those who only wait to be fed. I pulled out a spare old quilt from under the counter. Laid it out in the storage room at the back. Though crowded with boxes, it was dry and safe. Li Jianguo crouched at the door, wiping his truck keys with a cloth. His despondent face showed a straightforward man in his 50s who disliked idling. He glanced at the flickering light, dim from unstable voltage. "Chow chow, your generator is out back? I'll take a look. We can't go without electricity." He stood up, patted his muddy pants, and light returned to his eyes. I didn't refuse. The convenience store is becoming a shelter. Out back is a makeshift iron shed. Inside, the shed is full of odds and ends tinkered with by my dad. Li Jianguo ducked in, and I heard the clanging sound of bang bang clank from within. His hands had black grease, a smudge on his face. Grinning, he said, "It's damp, but I'll get it breathing again, it'll work." Half an hour later, with black smoke, the generator sputtered and ran smoothly. The fluorescent light in the shop buzzed on, glowing. The freezer also started humming. Here, at this forgotten highway outpost, that faint light felt like a shot of adrenaline. Li Jianguo murmured, "Lights on, keeps bad stuff out." Zhou Qian had already cleaned the small storage room, polished the abacus on the counter till it gleamed. Watching busy people, I felt the tension loosen a little. Li Jianguo wiped sweat, entered the shop, and asked, "Chow chow, those punks on the car roof? We can't leave them there. It's getting creepy." I looked out the door. Wang Dahu and his crew huddled on the pickup truck roof like drowned rats, wary of the invisible barrier. I found an old wooden board, wrote a few big words on it with a red marker, and hung it in the most noticeable spot on the doorframe. "No credit. Pay up front or barter. No favors. No fighting. Argue? Go outside. Water's deep." Wang Dahu stood on the car roof, face dark like pouring rain. One lackey spat, cursing. A middle-aged man waited up, clutching the doorframe, eyes darting nervously. Holding the doorframe, gaze shifting, he pointed at a bottle. "Boss, can I start a tab? Once aid arrives, I'll repay you double." I shook my head, pointed to the board. His face changed, he reached for the bottle near the edge. The moment his fingers brushed the bottle, it slid off like oil, slipping deeper onto the shelf. Instantly, he yanked his hand away as if pricked by a needle. He backed off, shouting, "This shop's haunted." I looked at him calmly. "If you're not buying, you can leave." He glanced at my indifferent face, then at the broom by the door, before grudgingly retreating into the water. Suddenly, the old cash register on the counter let out a crisp ding. I walked over to see its black and white LCD screen glowing a faint, eerie blue. Top left corner displayed, current inventory, 3,421 items. Click to view. A radar circular display appeared with flashing colored dots. Li Jianguo, Zhou Qian, and Granny Chen were marked green as friendly. Refugees huddled silently in the store showed neutral yellow, while dark red dots outside indicated Wang Dahu's gang. Above the red dots, hostility level, 92%, fluctuated as Wang Dahu observed the store. Whenever he showed a malicious expression, the number crept upward. The monitor had a slot labeled recycle bin. I tried tossing a crushed aluminum can into the slot. A new line of text popped up on the screen. Keep up the good work, store owner. This system taught me how to establish order in this collapsing world. On the 15th day of the storm, the rain stopped. The clouds were swept away, sunlight poured onto the earth. It wasn't hope, it marked the start of new despair. In an hour, groundwater evaporated, white steam rose, and the temperature jumped from the 20s to over 40 degrees. The water on the highway evaporated at a visible speed, leaving behind a sticky layer of sludge, reeking of a nauseating stench. The heat is unbearable, but recoiled as the soles of his plastic shoes sizzled, releasing smoke on the scorching ground. A crisp splash echoed from the backyard. I rushed to check and found the old, dry well gushing clear spring water. The bubbling water radiated a refreshing coolness that felt like a miracle on this unbearable afternoon heat. Qian Zhou brought a bucket, saying, "Xiao Qiao, this water is ice cold." Touching the well, the chilling sensation shot to my brain. On the stone slab of the well rim, faint glowing characters read, "Heaven's dew, free to any with a sincere heart." I glanced at the highway emitting heat haze, turned to the restless people, and said, "Let's fetch some water." The sun burned like iron, scalding overhead. In 3 days, the highway transformed from a sea of water. The sludge dried, cracked into flakes, with gaps deep enough to trap car wheels. The air distorted in the heat, causing distant scenery to shimmer and double. Wells within a 10-mile radius ran dry, and villagers flocked to my place. The scorching heat hit like a wave, but a single step back into the store brought the cool, refreshing scent of well water wrapping around my whole body. That fire and ice contrast left people boiling with frustration. "Xiao Qiao, help us! My kid's tongue is cracking." Dry, cracking. Behind him stood a crowd, cracked lips, sweat, and burning heat wafting from them. Turned to glance at the ancient. Though the spring water gushed, the flow was weaker than during the downpour. On the well's stone slab, 4 engraved words flickered faintly, as if warning me. I calculated the water stock and the well's output. The disaster was beginning. If I opened the floodgates now, in 3 days, this well would dry up. This little store had become a prize everyone wanted. Li Jianguo guarded the door with a crowbar, while Zhou Qian hid her child behind the counter. Everyone knew water was worth gold. I grabbed the megaphone and said, "Bring a container, line up. 1 bucket per person per day." The chaotic crowd fell silent briefly before erupting into louder protests. 1 bucket? That won't cut it. I need at least a whole tank for 5 people. Exactly! That well water is free. Why act so righteous? Burly men pushed forward, but Li Jianguo stepped up, slamming the crowbar on the ground with a heavy thud. The broom moved on its own, hitting the door frame with a thud, adding an eerie menace. The crowd was stunned. Wang Dahu, crouching in the shadow of a car, his swollen face still unrecovered, shouted at the group, "Shut up! Anyone breaking rules, check with the broom first." I glanced at Wang Dahu. His cocky attitude was gone. He looked like he'd shed a layer of skin, his eyes filled with a brotherly, fetch water from the back. Zhou Qian, handle records. I ignored the cursing crowd and gave orders. The first bucket of water was lifted, clear as crystal, faintly, "Name." Those who wanted to cause trouble saw the icy water and gulped. In the end, they got in line. Staying alive was the priority. At night, the sweltering heat lingered, and cicadas were maddening. I rested on a recliner behind the counter, half asleep. I heard a faint splash from the backyard, like a wooden bucket lowering into a well. My eyes flew open. The radar screen lit up. A red dot, indicating malice, flashed at the backyard center. Didn't alarm Li Jianguo. Tiptoed to the back door, saw a small dark shadow crouched by the well's edge. Clutching a hemp rope, it was Lai Si from the village, known for sticky fingers. He lined up for water earlier and was back again, still greedy. He moved quickly, hoisted a bucket of water, hugged it, and prepared to escape. The calm well water suddenly boiled. "Aw, damn!" Lai Si yelped, pulling his hands away like he'd been burned. The heavy bucket spun eerily in the air, as if it had eyes, then flipped straight onto his head. A bucket of icy water with its heavy wooden weight slammed into Lai Si's forehead. He didn't have time to scream. He staggered, flailed, and crashed to the ground. Strangely, the spilled water didn't soak into the ground. It rolled across the earth like pearls, only to flow back into the well as if nothing happened. The calculator flashed a strange message. By morning, Lai Si was found by the highway, scaring many, though he survived. His thieving hands had swollen up like overproofed bread, so painful that even the slightest touch made him wince. He walked up to my door but didn't come in. Instead, he stood outside the golden shimmer. Bowed deeply. "I, Wang Dahua, wasn't decent before. I tried to take over your shop." He wiped sweat off his face, voice hoarse. "Officials are gone, people are fighting over water. I'll guard this 100-meter perimeter with my men. Give us water, and anyone causing trouble will face us." I sized him up. Wang Dahua is a thug but has authority here. Li Jiangwo's old, and I can't cover the area alone. No stealing water. No stepping inside the shop, I said coldly. Got it. Absolutely. Wang Dahua looked relieved, signaling to his lackey. They stationed at the roadside intersection, holding shovels or metal pipes, glaring fiercely at outsiders. Miraculously, things started to improve. The numbers on the abacus flickered. Lives are worthless, but Wang Dahua, used properly, is a sharp blade. That night, Granny Chen's condition worsened. She lay in the bed, her breathing faint as if a breeze could snuff it out. I brought well water to her lips. Clarity shone in her eyes. She gripped my hand firmly. Little Chow, save your strength. These old bones, seeing the earth god's spirit is enough. My nose tingled, it'll all pass soon. You need to witness the store growing. Grandma Chen let out a bitter laugh, her voice low enough for only us to hear. You must keep this store and protect that signboard. Didn't your parents tell you? The tong in the store's name is actually a play on the word gong, meaning offering. Running a business here feels like guarding this land. Her words hit me like thunder. Grandma pointed to the backyard, speaking haltingly. There's a disaster under the well. If it dries up or you leave the store for over 24 hours, that thing will emerge. People will perish. She froze for a moment. Released my hand. Moonlight shone on her face. She passed peacefully. The calculator on the counter emitted a dull hum. I rushed over to check, and the screen turned from blue to dark red. A warning appeared in red text. Grandma Chen's body turned cold. Outside, heat slammed against the wooden door. But they couldn't enter the room. A withered hand lay. Beside me, Zhou Qian sobbed. Li Jianguo took off his hat and stood in the shadow. 37 generations. I repeated Grandma's deathbed word. I looked toward the familiar little shop, the worn-out counter, the yellowed incandescent bulb, and the broom behind the door, now trembling slightly. I thought this shop was a livelihood my parents left me. I never imagined it feeling like a heavy lock. The dark red glow on the abacus faded away. Caretaker transfer completed. Current access locked. I closed Grandma's eyes. I covered her with a white sheet. In a world where the dead outnumber the living, Grandma's passing was dignified. Wang Dahu heard the commotion but didn't dare enter. He knelt at the door and knocked his head 3 times. On the radar, I saw his spot. Its red hue faded, replaced by gray. Grandma is gone, leaving a mystery to uncover. I got up, walked to the attic. It was locked for a long time, once forbidden in my parents' time. Dust filled the air, dancing in the scattered sunlight. From a cracked wooden box, I found a notebook wrapped in plastic. It was Dad's diary, with faint traces of red ink on the cover. I opened the first page. The handwriting was messy yet strong. In Gingxi year, the flood came, the shrine was destroyed, and we built this store to suppress it. The diary recorded events I hadn't heard before. This shop, it existed to conceal something. On the diary's last page, a heavy pen circle was drawn. In the shop. Instinctively, I reached for the necklace my mom tied on me before she passed away. Inside were dried mugwort. I thought it was for protection against evil. I tore off the sachet and unraveled the stitches. Amid the dry herbs, sure enough, my fingers brushed against something hard and cold. It was a greenish-black stone seal, intricately carved with spirits and deities. When the seal touched my skin, a powerful current surged from my arm to my head. My vision changed. I was no longer standing in the attic. Floating above the shop in midair, I saw underground roots soaking up the remnants of the earth's cooling essence. I could see the refugees clinging to the shadows along the national highway, their labored breaths amplified 100 times in my ears. Every grain of sand, every tiny shift of moisture in the air became vividly imprinted in my mind. The stone grew scorching hot. I saw Li Jianguo fiddling with the water pump, his face strained, radiating a warm yellow glow. Wang Dahu by the door, surrounded by restless black aura, pondered where to get hard goods tomorrow. This is the shrine keeper's power? I murmured. I focused my thoughts. Close. A window had been clicked shut without force. The thrill of control washed over me. I collapsed to the ground. The stone's glow dimmed. That godlike perspective vanished in an instant. The world reverted to the sweltering, suffocating little store. I descended the stairs. Outside, opportunist Lai Zi and some unfamiliar men loitered near the shop. In my perception, thick black smoke emanating from them seemed to stain the shop's signboard. Brother, the woman's guarding valuables alone. Later, why don't we? Lai Zi lowered his voice, his eyes gleamed. In my vision, his throat was surrounded by a blood-red aura, a manifestation of malice. Inside the threshold, I clutched the stone in my hand. Lai Zi froze, then forced a grin and raised his hand. Hey, want to hold hands with me? My thoughts shifted. A few paperclips resting on the shelf jumped into the air. They shot out the window like meteors. Before the punk reacted, the clips pierced several acupuncture points on his hand with precision. He screamed like a slaughtered pig. His arm turned black and blue instantly, yet no visible wound appeared. "Next time, it'll be your tongue," I said and walked away. The vagrant scrambled away, tumbling and fleeing over 100 meters. Wang Dahu watched, stunned. His eyes shifted from awe to fear. He understood, the shopkeeper knows real magic. As calm returned, a burst of static from the radio shattered it. It came from the emergency channel of the shelter in the provincial city. I still managed to catch a familiar name amidst the chaos, grade student. Last sighting, armored vehicle evacuation point, north of the city. Heart skipped, rag dropped. My little brother. With our parents gone early, he's my only family left. The provincial city is over 60 kilometers away. Floodwaters receded, leaving roads muddy and vehicle. More importantly, that carved stone seal and the diary were silently warning me, time is running out. Xiao Qiao, no news is good news. Li Jianguo handed me a bottle of water, his voice heavy. I gazed at the heat waves, then turned to the tranquil shop, a paradise apart from the world. If I leave, this place could be torn apart by starving maniacs. If I stay, Tong Lei might be on a corpse-ridden street, needing me to save him. 24 hours. I looked at Li Jianguo and Wang Dahu, and a bold, insane plan formed in my mind. Before the final hour strikes, come back alive. The rescue signal was cut off, leaving a heavy silence. The stone seal on my chest burned hot, almost urging me to act. I walked to the backyard. There was nothing but a dry well. I gripped the stone seal, closed my eyes, and focused deep into the rock below. Sensed an unyielding vapor stream and ley lines, crushed by an invisible force. Chanted open. The stone seal suddenly burst with a ghostly blue light, piercing down into the ground. The muddy ground split open in a half-meter crevice. Moments later, a powerful icy jet of water shot out, stronger than the first well. It's over 2 meters tall, and water's gushing out. Li Jianguo rushed out with a wrench, stunned. The water flow from the second well was immense, filling the backyard tank. Water streamed through the trench, reaching the ground's far edges 100 meters away as spring water revived the dry earth. The convenience store territory felt stable. The stone seal's energy was healing the dry land. The store's supplies were depleting quickly. With a dozen mouths to feed and bartering with refugees, the shelves were nearly empty. I stayed by the counter with the stone seal, emitting faint rhythmic breathing. I noticed red heat waves and blue moisture in the air. Drawn to the cash register, glowing energy wisps, coin-sized, began collecting on empty shelves. They solidified into real items. A bag of rice turned from a faint outline into something tangible. Bottles of mineral water appeared, stacked in empty. The shelves seemed to grow goods. I touched them, they were real. The production dates on the packaging were perfectly clear. A line of text flashed across the screen of the abacus. The speed solved my biggest worry. This store, as long as the stone seal remains, can sustain itself. Seeing these supplies revived, I knew this wasn't just trade, it was planting a seed of survival amid disaster. With stable food and water, the territory attracted more people. This time, I only let select ones in, like Old Sun, a blacksmith in his 50s, clung to his hammer while fleeing. Reaching the shop on the brink of collapse, he pointed to the tin shed in the backyard and said, "Boss lady, give me food. I can turn scrap car parts into tools." Lu, widow, held a wooden shuttle in her arms. She could weave mats and covers with grass seeds and leftover fabric. Using the stone seal's perception, checked malice levels. A faint blue glow showed honesty and will to survive. Placed Old Sun in the backyard tin, arranged for Lu to stay in a storeroom. Metal clangs echoed from the backyard as Old Sun melted scrap truck panels into blades. Lu worked on the second floor window, weaving sunshades to block scorching rays. The shop was evolving from a refuge into a self-sustaining micro-community. As word spread, survivors from nearby villages gathered here. I set rules at the perimeter. This is a fair trade zone. Barter only, no violence. No violence. Wang Dahu marked the boundary. The market opens for 2 hours every morning. Some traded gold rings for 2 packs of noodles. Others exchanged stale potato chips for half a bucket of water. I sat behind the counter, monitoring intentions via a stone-printed monitor. For every deal closed, I took a 5%, usually dry grass or junk scraps. To some, it's trash, but here, dropped into the recycler's slot. It converts into survival points. The market was orderly, some built makeshift shacks nearby. Closer to this patch of land, peace didn't last long. A cloud of dust rose into the air. It came from black-painted, modified vehicles flying bone flags. White held his iron rod. The name Dry Gang sends a chill down your spine. They are notorious marauders, known for raiding settlements near water sources. 3 modified off-road cars stopped at the perimeter. A bald brute stepped out, chest bare. His chest tattooed with a ghostly hand. On the flatbed behind him, a makeshift cannon welded from steel pipes was mounted. Hand over the well, leave the woman, and the men can scram. Or I'll blow this stump to pieces, he rasped. Before he finished speaking, the crude cannon belched a cloud of black smoke. Boom! A fireball with debris blasted at the convenience store. Inside, everyone screamed and dove for cover. Zhou Qian clung to Yu. Behind the counter, the stone seal erupted in golden light. Felt blood boiling, ignited. Protect! I roared inwardly. A faint golden dome appeared, unfolding at the roof of the store, shielding an area of 100 meters around us. The makeshift shell collided with the golden barrier, screeching like nails on a chalkboard. What could have blown through red brick walls? It stopped at a golden shimmer, like hitting an invisible steel wall. The fireball exploded midair, black smoke dispersing. The shield rippled, the bald man froze, rubbing his eyes as the convenience store deflected his cannonball. Fire again, he screamed. A blast, flames shot skyward. The shield stood firm. My palms slick with sweat as I stayed behind the counter. The stone seal drained my strength, though the golden light held strong. Each block made my face paler. I gritted teeth, scanning the shelves. I can't just sit here and take it. I immersed into the stone seal, and a sense of control returned. In that moment, every item in the store ceased to be lifeless objects. They became soldiers waiting for orders. Go! I slashed the air with 2 fingers, pointing outside the door at the bald guy. A few unsold iron pots for molds suddenly let out a sharp vibration. They shot off the shelves like black flying discs, slicing through the air in bizarre arcs. They pierced through the golden barrier. What the hell is this? The bald man swung his steel pipe to block. Clang, a cast iron frying pan slammed into the side of his face. The dull sound made teeth ache on hearing. The bald man, as if his strings were cut, flew 3 meters away. Half his face instantly swelled, mouth white teeth mixed with blood flew into the sandy ground. Dozens of steel bowls and broom handles scattered. Boxes of canned lunch and meat rained on the SUVs as household items zipped through the air with precision, targeting wrists, knees, and eyes. The desert gangsters had no time to react before being struck down by mundane objects. Once ferocious bandits now looked pitiful, flailing amidst swirling chaos of pots and pans. Seeing this, Li Jianguo found his courage. She dug out cheap, effective powders from the medicine cabinet. He filled the sprayer tank with diesel and white phosphorus. He hit the switch, and the long tube meant for spraying pesticides unleashed a 3-meter-long dark red fire dragon. Under the drought's sun, the fire dragon's power doubled. Flames licked vehicle tires, spreading the burning rubber smell. One guy ambushing was caught by the fire tongue, clothes ablaze. Panicked, he rolled but couldn't extinguish the fire. Chaos erupted. Fire! There's fire! The Drylands gang panicked. Used to bullying refugees, they'd never faced this before. Flying frying pans, fire-breathing sprayers, and an unbreakable golden shield. Using items from the shelves, I flawlessly neutralized threats. Whenever anyone climbed onto the vehicle to use the cannon, a shampoo bottle hit the back of their head, knocking him into the mud. Zhou Qian had prepared some self-defense powder over the past 2 days. Brother Li, let me borrow your She grabbed an empty sprayer, pressed the nozzle against the wind, and released greenish powder scattering toward the bandits. My skin! Thousands of ants crawling over me. The big guys tore at their clothes, scratching deep bloody marks into their skin. A violent chemical reaction. The itching that seeps from deep within is more torturous than being slashed with a knife. They dropped their axes, abandoned cannons, and thrashed in the mud, trying to stop the itching. They looked pathetic. The drought gang was reduced to nothing in 10 minutes. I withdrew the power of the stone seal. The golden barrier dissipated. Observing the wailing men outside, I felt no joy, only cold resolve to survive. Squat down, hands on your heads. Wang Dahu charged out with his men, hauling up the scratching bandits. The bald man's swollen face resembled a pig's head. His gaze, formerly perverse, now held deadened fear. 17 people, 3 busted vehicles, and a pile of crude explosives, Wang Dahu reported. He asked, Little Chow, what now? Toss them into the water to feed the fish. I left the shop. The highway during the drought held no fish, just sun-scorched earth. Killing them would take effort and dirty the ground. I saw the bald man. The stone seal showed his malice had turned deep gray, a sign of complete despair. Widen the ditch, clear abandoned vehicles, and help at Sun's Forge with bellows and iron. I pointed to the backyard. Let them labor. For every 10 hours of work, they get porridge and water. If anyone runs, that broom will bring them back. The broom behind the door jumped, producing a sharp sound. Prisoners herded into the backyard by Wang Dahu started sweating, digging into the dirt. I turned my head toward the provincial capital. The first battle was won, but I knew the real threat awaited me in that city, now reduced to ruins. The midday sun was scorching, cracking stones. The horizon twisted under the heat. Wang Dahu led prisoners digging drainage ditches. He cried out, startled. There, a person? Through heat waves, a dark figure crawled along the cracked highway. The figure dragged a long, dark red streak behind them, which quickly blackened and crusted over on the scorching dirt. Their fingertips touched the 100-meter boundary, and their body went limp, drained of strength. Ignoring the sun, I rushed out. A young man, his clothes scraps, his skin scorched tree bark. When I pushed aside his matted hair, my heart clenched. Xiao Lei? It was my brother, Tong Lei. His face was hollow, unrecognizable. His lips were cracked and bloody. Li Jianguo and Wang Daho carried him into the shop. Inside, the cool air made his body tremble violently. His eyes were shut, his parched hand clutched my sleeve, and his voice was almost inaudible. Zhou Qian brought a bucket of cold well water to clean Tong Lei's wounds. When she cut open the cloth on his back, she gasped and covered her mouth in shock. On his emaciated back were deep claw marks down to the bone, yet these wounds weren't bleeding. A faint dark red glow emanated, edges scorched black, seared by a blazing hot iron rod. Poison, Li Jianguo muttered, frowning. He'd driven freight trucks and never seen this. Tong Lei had a high fever, muttering gibberish. Suddenly, unconscious, he spasmed, grabbed an empty bottle, and shattered it. The water monster, a villager shouted. They appear during heat waves, palm-sized, covered in fire. One bite, and you're half dead. I stared at red lines spreading on my brother's back, watching them crawl. My mind was chaos. The stone turned cold, and blue light flowed from my fingertips onto Tong Lei's back. The calculator flashed, mutation toxin detected. Purification costs 200 survival points. I pressed confirm. I pressed the stone seal above Tong Lei's wound. The seal erupted with a blue glow, as if it had come alive, transforming into threads that burrowed into the charred wound. Tong Lei let out a scream, his body arching violently. Veins bulging on his forehead. Red sparks in the wound scattered like frightened insects, cornered by blue light. Sizzle, black smoke rose from the wound, carrying a burnt smell. The swollen, festering wound began to shrink and heal, nurtured by the stone seal. The dark red toxins were entirely drawn out by the stone seal. The surface clouded over before regaining a clear glow. Half an hour later, Tong Lei's breathing steadied. Temperature normalized. Zhou Qian murmured prayers to the earth god. Exhausted, I slumped behind the counter. This stone seal was a guardian and cure in a chaotic world. Tong Lei woke the next evening and drank 3 bottles of water to regain strength. Sis, the provincial capital, it's gone. His terrified eyes showed the authorities, despite deploying armored vehicles and personnel, struggled to maintain. In extreme heat, the city became a steamer. Power grids collapsed, water sources dried up, and fire lizards hiding underground swarmed out. They rampaged through populated areas, setting fires everywhere. The authorities were helpless, Tong Lei said, his voice trembled. I followed an evacuation team for 300 kilometers. In the end, I was the only one left, surviving on dried grass and hiding under cars. He saw dried-up villages, crazed crowds, and shelters in the outskirts. They were taken over by lunatics calling themselves the Cult of Scorching Sunday. My palms were sweating. The area around the national highway seemed bad enough. The outside world became a living hell. Tong Lei's survival wasn't luck, it was fate. Tong Lei had been tinkering with gadgets since he was a kid. After 2 days of rest, he couldn't sit still. He stared at the old farming sprayer before smirking. Uncle Jangwo, this is cumbersome, and the fire shoots out too slow. Adding a pressure pump can extend the fire jet to 10 meters. Li Jianguo laughed. Play around with it. Tong Lei dove into the backyard tin shed, treating it as a treasure trove. In the tin shed of the yard, with Wang Dahua and captives, they dismantled 3 broken carts left by drought survivors. Gears, motors, pressure gauges, they came alive in his hands. He transformed the shop's front security door into a semi-automatic sensor door. If anyone forced entry, Yin's sensor would trigger the motor, ejecting barbed steel cables. He used metal scraps from Lao Sun's forge to build an alarm system. If someone lingered within a 100-meter radius over 5 minutes, a sharp alarm sounded from the cash register in the shop. Sis, with these, our place is finally a fortress. Tong Lei wiped grease off his face, grinning. As the drought ended, leaders from 7 villages unexpectedly arrived. They didn't charge in but stood outside the golden line, solemn. Leading them was Zhaojia village's elder chief. Stacks of yellow papers with red handprints. Miss Qiao, in the last 10 days, hundreds have depended on your will. The world is in chaos. Officials aren't supporting us. We'll follow your lead. I froze, looking at the yellow paper labeled leader. My heart raced, so many to be responsible for. Xiao Qiao, accept it, Li Jianguo urged. When the next heavy rain comes, we're all doomed. Looked at the stone seal, sensing their sincerity, radiating gentle warmth. Calculator screen displayed progress bar, public unity, regional leadership mode activated. This shop was no longer a shelter but the heart of the wasteland. As leader, new rules had to be set. I had Tong Lei put up a large wooden sign at the shop entrance. 4. Everyone contributes. 5. Shared water sources for villages, but able-bodied men take turns digging canals and building fortifications. Private disputes banned. Rules were strict but fair. Monthly resource exchanges ensured fair trade, no coercion, no foul play. Break the rules, and not only will you go thirsty, but this broom will show you out. I pointed at the mystical broom guarding the door. The villagers discussed briefly before signing under the elders' guidance. In this cannibalistic apocalypse, fairness and order were rarer than food. Wang Dahu was appointed patrol captain, leading captives and securing the perimeter. They wore old work clothes and carried Tong Lei's modified steel pitchforks. It looks mismatched but full of momentum. Order, a refreshing stream, begins quietly flowing through this parched land. The night after the treaty was signed, there was movement. I felt a massive surge of energy. It burst out at the convenience store center. The stone seal absorbed moonlight and the golden barrier 100 meters away. It expanded to 120, 150, then stabilized at 200 meters. As the barrier expanded, the cracked highway sprouted grass. The air temperature dropped slightly. The makeshift shelters that were built at the edge were now completely enclosed within this cool, safe zone. I looked at the stone seal. A 200-meter radius means I can host more people, improve defenses, and create an agricultural zone. Families had been crowding at the stores, started moving out, setting up homes within the 200-meter range. This convenience store is transforming rapidly into a true territory. I noticed the stone seal now had a display box labeled kindness points. When I gave a can of free baby formula to Zhou Qian's child. Points +5, Wang Dahu helped an old lady carry water. +1, everyone worked together to build the first water channel to Zhao village. The value jumped by 50. Kindness points speed up shelf restocking and unlock functions from the stone tablet. Drought-resistant crops have their growth time shortened by 50%. In a disaster-filled year, food is everything. Growing crops endlessly will make the territory unshakable. I encouraged villagers to help each other. Build a shed for a neighbor, get extra porridge, emergency medicine. This warmth, a relic of the old days, miraculously revived around the relay station, driven by self-interest and rules. The radar circle, once filled with red dots, is now replaced by green and yellow patches. After the territory stabilized, Zhou Qian came to me. Rolling in the dirt isn't the solution. These kids can't. She pointed at children playing near the scrapyard on the national highway. I want to set up a school here to teach literacy and basic rules. Seeing their dusty faces softened me. Legacy and hope matter most now. I allocated land on the east side of the territory. I asked Wang Dahu to build a wooden shed. Old Sun hung iron bells at the entrance. The next day, the sound of reading echoed from the shed. Zhou Qian held a wooden stick, teaching kids to write names in the sand while I watched from behind the counter. The busy patrol team, the clanging blacksmith shop, Lu weaving cloth, and that simple classroom. The liveliness made me feel as if the world had never fallen apart. The stone seal trembled, emitting warmth. I looked to the horizon, storm clouds gathered again. The heat wave ended. A storm was imminent. I was ready to protect humanity's sanctuary. As the drought ended, the sky shifted to a bluish-purple hue. Clouds pressed heavy and low, with thunder rumbling deep within. A sharp whistle tore through the air. Seconds later, a thick shard of ice slammed into the roof of an abandoned car. It pierced through rusted metal. "Get indoors now! Everyone into the territory!" I shouted through the loudspeaker. Hail fell, sharp chunks striking concrete and leaving craters. Refugees on the highway scrambled to reach the 200-meter safe zone. Screams and crashes erupted. A purple lightning bolt struck a power pole, shattering it as it collapsed. The storm raged outside the barrier, cutting with icy blades and creating screeches. I stood at the shop entrance, feeling the stone seal in my hand tremble. The golden barrier began to flicker under the endless barrage of ice spears. Beneath my feet, the cracked ground trembled with every clash of ice and lightning. Unprecedented pressure pressed down from above, a judgment to obliterate everything. The barrier shook violently as massive chunks of ice shattered against the golden light, scattering into countless sparkling fragments. It felt like a hammer blow straight to my chest. A metallic tang rose in my throat. The barrier shrank. The land once stretching 200 meters was receding inward. Those on the edges scrambled toward the center in terror. If the barrier retracted, the shelters and schoolhouses outside would be reduced to rubble instantly. I channeled strength into the stone seal, roaring furiously. The seal shot out, transforming into a dazzling streak of light soaring skyward. The golden barrier rose from a circular ring on the ground, guided by the stone seal as golden rays interweaved. Above, the entire outpost was sealed tightly underneath. Thunder and the ice storm were now isolated above, rippling against the shimmering dome. Every ripple dispersed chaos outside. I saw people kneeling in prayer, others clinging together. My vision blurred. The stone seal became a bottomless pit, draining my life force. Cold sweat covered my back. The compassion value on the calculator screen spun wild, from hundreds to thousands to tens of thousands. External attack resolved. My body reached its limit. Shadows overlapped. Xiao Qiao! Li Jianguo caught my shoulder. His voice sounded distant. Zhou Qian's screams echoed in my ears. I felt warm liquid from my nose dripping onto the cold floor. The stone hummed one last time, stabilizing the barrier. My consciousness sank like a stone into the sea. Cold, dark waters surrounded me. Before losing consciousness, I saw villagers rushing toward the counter. They weren't looting but instead offering what little they had, some spare coins, clean pieces of cloth, even a handful of freshly shelled grains, placing them reverently on the counter. It was their way to replenish energy for the land protecting them. The sensor light on the counter flickered. And the well of goodwill filled. My hand hung limply at my side as my consciousness drifted into a fading dream. Around me, a white glow. When I woke, a faint herbal scent filled the room. A damp towel. When she saw me awake, the water basin nearly slipped. She stammered, ran to the door, shouting, "She's awake. Boss lady!" I turned to the counter. The number on the calculator shocked me. Virtue points, 89,000. Li Jianguo pushed the door open, his bloodshot eyes betraying sleepless days. Xiao Qiao, lie down. These days, everyone guards the store entrance quietly. Wang Dahu and his crew reinforced the edges. Refugees joined the work, no troublemakers among them. Tong Lei brought rice porridge, looked at them, then out the window. Power and ice stopped. The air was rich with damp soil. This disaster didn't bring down the station but bonded self-serving survivors into a team. I sat up and felt the stone seal in my palm. It was heavier, warmer, connected to countless shared breaths. Through the stone seal, I could feel their essence clearly passing into the deepest part of my soul, showing me exactly what I was guarding. It carried a gentle jade-like glow throughout and was no longer a defensive tool but embodied the collective will of the people. I provided safety and supplies, they returned generosity and order, a cycle to rebuild civilization. As long as this cycle continues, the shop will remain a sanctuary. Sis, see this, Tong Lei said, pulling something from the wooden chest left, removed a sheepskin parchment hidden in the lining, an ancient map centered at the crossroads where we stood. Thick red lines crossed the highway, pointing north to an abandoned site. On the map's back, dark red writing appeared. The vein breaks, disaster arises. This small shop seems to be a gatekeeper position. The chaos outside, fire and water, likely stems from a damaged energy core underground. To end the cycle, I must visit the underground palace. I checked the map's Black Dragon Mouth. A giant beast lies on the ground near a red spot called Black Dragon Mouth. A red line tracing the way. He's driven this highway 30 years, familiar with hills and valleys around here. Black Dragon Mouth, once a mining area, was sealed due to accidents. Outside, iron machinery lies rusting. I studied the map's markings. The stone imprint trembles as it nears those red lines, a yearning. Like a child wanting to go home, I said, I have to go. This time, no breaking the rules. Tong Lei was the first to react, his face red with urgency. I pointed to the 80,000 goodwill points and said, with these, I can temporarily charge the stone seal. Maintains automated defense for 24 hours without me. With a 60-kilometer mountain trip, less than a day remains. High-stakes gamble, wagering my life and the station's future. Li Jianguo stayed silent, then drew his gleaming knife and nodded firmly. Tong Lei worked through the night and sketched a complex diagram on the wall with charcoal. This small store is a receiver. Land God Temple site was an ancient Earth meridian node. Hub broke. Earth energy outside is chaotic, flooding one moment, spewing fire the next. He pointed to Black Dragon's mouth on the map, his gaze shining with tech geek passion. The control room is the energy source. I realized my parents left me not a store, but an unfinished project. I took out the steel folding crossbow forged by Old Sun and the high-power detection light modified by Tong Lei. I left Wang Dahu to defend the store. The look in his eyes showed sacred intensity. He patted his chest and vowed no outsider would set foot in the store, even if it cost his life. I granted him access to the stone seal. If malice value exceeds 90%, the broom will switch to expulsion mode. 3 a.m., tension before a storm. The four of us opened the back gate. Starting an unknown mountain path, I handed out 3 days' rations to everyone at the outpost. With the highway destroyed, we took the modified armored pickup truck. The front was fitted with an old trident-shaped obstacle remover by Lao Sun, making it an iron beast for the wilderness. It was just before the storm broke, the air so oppressive it was hard to breathe, every inhale felt like swallowing fine grains of sand. The tires crushed scorched earth, sending ash clouds into the air. I glanced back at the shrinking outpost, promising, wait for me to return. The pickup bounced along the rugged mountain road as Li Jianguo expertly avoided bottomless cracks. Tong Lei sat in the passenger seat, holding a homemade signal booster, while Wang Dahu crouched in the truck bed, clutching 2 steel forks and scanning the surroundings with sharp vigilance. On the cliffside, faint reddish trails left by fire lizards glimmered in the darkness. A sign of how unstable this land had become. The stone seal in my arms radiated a cool sensation, like a compass pulling us deeper into the mountains. Black Dragon's Mouth. It was more desolate than I'd imagined. The ridges on either side looked like dried-out ribs, scorched by the rocks had a reddish-brown hue. We found the hidden mine entrance, with rusted vehicle frames blocking the way. Claw marks covered the car doors, but no one was there. The silence was unsettling. From the cave entrance, a cold, heavy presence rose. The stone seal on my chest emitted light, illuminating the cave. This is it. Steadying myself, I led into the cave. As we ventured deeper, the signs of man-made excavation gradually faded, replaced by a corridor of ancient stone. The walls were carved with mythical beasts and swirling cloud patterns, which writhed in the glow of our lights. At the end of the corridor stood a bronze gate. On the gate, an embossed image of a closed eye. As the stone seal drew closer, runes around it lit up blue. The grinding gears filled the air, their rumbling power throbbing against my eardrums, carrying the weight of an era. The bronze gate was unlocked, but pushing it awakened two massive 3-meter stone guardians. Their movements were slow but powerful. The first challenge was courage. One guardian swung a colossal axe. I didn't dodge. I raised the stone seal to meet it. The force numbed my arms with the impact. The second trial is wisdom. The giant eye opened, a complex pattern appeared, and Tong Lei quickly moved the stones. Solving a puzzle cube, the final stone placed triggered a sharp click from the door. The last trial was the strangest, mutated young beasts trapped in crevices, covered in festering sores. Wang Dahe wanted to kill them with a steel fork, but I spent virtue points to purify the beasts with the stone seal's light. The red glow in their eyes faded, and they dissolved into shadows. I whispered softly. The bronze door fully opened at last, flooding the cave with an ancient, primeval aura. The sight left everyone momentarily dazed. Beyond the door was an enormous underground cavern. At the cavern's center floated a cracked sphere with pipes extending into the walls. The pipes, once brimming with a vibrant blue energy, now streamed with murky black smoke and volatile sparks of electricity. This is the geomantic core, Tong Lei muttered. The technology made him hesitate to approach. At the core center was a recessed slot, shaped to fit the stone seal in my hand. Suddenly, the cavern shook violently as an explosive sound erupted, releasing destructive energy. I can feel the skies outside shifting. A new wave of disaster is arriving early, leaking out scorching magma. Quick, put it in! Tong Lei shouted, his voice echoing throughout the vast cavern. I pushed against the turbulent energy flow, moving slowly with each step. My skin was cut with slashes, and the stone seal in my hand thrashed, as if trying to break free. I stepped onto the stone platform and pressed the stone seal into the groove. As it clicked into place, blinding white light erupted from the opening. The murky black smoke disintegrated upon touching the white light. My consciousness stretched infinitely. The relay station miles away, where people stared at the sky in terror. Dry lands brought forth flowing springs again. Fire lizards burrowed underground as the stone seal pulsed like a heart. Blue energy flowed into the channels. The shaking cavern instantly stilled. It was the breath of the earth, and violent energy settled into calm. What once seemed an uncontainable disaster was now contained. Did it work? Wang Dahe asked, gripping the steel fork. I opened my eyes to the rejuvenated core. Leaning on the stone platform, I smiled. The ley line is connected. Energy in the pipeline flows smoothly. I feel the stone seal merging with my bloodline. I'm no longer its master, but its extension. Control and peace spread through the territory along the ley line. When we rushed back to the shop, there were less than 10 minutes left until the 24-hour deadline. Braking sharply, someone cried out. What is that? The highway, once ruined and scorched, is now lush and green. The golden barrier around the shop has disappeared, replaced by a transparent field. 1 square kilometer of flourishing vegetation. The temperature remains a cozy 26 degrees. While distant skies churn with dark clouds, entering here feels like another world. Villagers run across the land, cheering. Some even collapse into the grass, sobbing and rolling with joy. At a horizontal infinity symbol, land restored, life revived. Current territory, new peach blossom land. Familiar faces. I exit the car, seeing familiar faces gather. Fear in their eyes has vanished, replaced by hope for the future. Old Sun laughs with a hammer in hand. Zhou Qian sings rhymes with children. This land has become the brightest gem on the planet. Radiating vitality. Word spread quickly. Exhausted officials arrived in modified jeeps. They spoke reverently, offering seeds for temporary shelter. I was no longer a shopkeeper behind a counter. Now, a hospital stands here. A factory, a wheat field. Tong Lei's team restored signal towers, reconnecting the network. Wang Daho's patrol grew to 100 members, protecting hope. Li Jianguo led the transport team, their trucks carrying specialties from New Taoyuan. I enjoy sitting behind the cash register. The stone seal hangs below the signboard. It doesn't glow, but visitors feel the weight of the earth. Bandits who tried to rob us now work in the fields. New Taoyuan became the largest safe haven nearby. Every morning, as sunlight illuminates the lush green fields, I know we've won. We've cultivated the most brilliant flower of civilization. I open a new ledger. Writing on the paper feels soothing on quiet afternoons. 5 years later, the station grows into a small town of 10,000. White buildings line hills. Streets have evergreen peach trees. The repaved national road, now smooth stone, has heavy traffic. Today is the harvest festival of New Taoyuan, held before the shrine of the new god of the land. In the center of the ancestral hall, there's no deity statue. The shop's sign glints in sunlight, showing age. Wheat seeds arrived from East Village. Lei is now a steady young man, leading a group of youths toward me, sweating. I smile and nod. Placing wheat on the offering table, evening breeze stirs, turning fields into golden waves. Life moves in rhythm. An old-style calculator on the counter no longer juggles numbers. Its screen is frozen with red words, peace today. Stepping out of the shop, basking in the sunset. In this chaos and harmony, this land will always remember. A gatekeeper held a light never extinguished in darkness. Beneath it, life thrives. The story of this little shop continues.